Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back once again to Fat Cat Collections. And this video is going to be another Invicta watch review. Now, I wanted to review this watch first of the 8 that I have back here from my good bud Bulldog Enterprise, a Invicta seller, one of the Invicta sellers on eBay that is reputable. Now, there's many places to buy on eBay that sell Invicta watches, and most sellers on eBay are reputable. But this is a guy who I've had experience with. I've purchased from him in the past. He's very trusting in sending me tons of different Invicta watches to review and share with you guys. And this is another one that, when it first came out, this was probably one of Invicta's most highly anticipated releases. As far as I can remember, since I've been collecting Invictas, which is going back probably about 6 years now, 7 years, I don't remember a watch ever being this highly anticipated. And there was a little bit of a back and forth on whether or not people loved it or hated it, or just didn't really know how they felt about it. I will tell you, I was one of the ones that was super excited to see it come out. I did a video about the watch before it came out, but I've never actually had it in my possession. I basically told you guys about a little bit about the details about it, showed you some pictures. Nothing really special, nothing you guys can't do on your own. But I have it here today. And I have it in, again, one of my favorite colors in a watch, gold. And I will tell you that, you know, prior to getting the watch in my hand, I didn't really think it was one that I wanted to add to my collection. Now, unfortunately, I'm not going to be adding it to my collection today because I went to the friggin' casino yesterday and lost over $1,000. So that was stupid, but I'm not that bright. So anyway, this is one that at some point I would like to have in my collection. The price on this really fluctuates. This is where you gotta be careful with Invicta, because I've seen this watch jump up to $1,000, and it's weird because a lot of times when that happens, it's because they're getting harder to get. Now, this watch right now you can still get for a pretty fair price, but nothing quite insane like the yellow tag event. I think as time goes on, you might see this watch drop or increase, because sometimes when these Invictas sell out, like many different products out there, if there's a demand for it, and let's face it, Invicta watches are always in demand. There's always a seller a buyer who's looking to add one to their collection. It's like no other watch out there. I can't think of any other brand that people genuinely collect. You know, there are some guys who, like myself, I have a lot of different watches, but my go-to is always going to be Invicta. You get the most bang for your buck. I don't care what anybody says, and I always encourage people to say, if you got a watch, it's something that's amazing quality, let me know about it. Now, don't come on and be like, oh, Invicta sucks, you need to get this. Because I'll tell you, I have I've sold a few, so I have about 130 watches, I think, in my collection right now. Watches that are very entry level, that cost, you know, under 20 bucks, cheapies that I got when I was a kid on eBay or on different websites, you know. Little story for you just before I go on here. I'm really disappointed. I had a Geneve Elegante, fully iced out Swarovski crystal watch, homage to a Rolex Submariner, same design. Again, I mean, there's so many watches. Like, I should really say homage to Rolex and a bunch of other different brands, because Rolex, I mean, has copied other brands to produce the Submariner. So anyway, there's always going to be something that looks like something else, but except the Invicta, nobody else makes a watch models like Invicta. So just stay with me, okay? I'm going to show you the watch, trust me. But I took the back off to try to fix the crown in this really old watch I got probably in the late 90s. Has held up, I mean, it was a $200 watch with the bracelet. I don't know how many stones are in this thing. Must be over 500. I've done a review on it. Find it on my channel. Drop me a comment if you want to see it. I'll send you the link. And I took the back off, and dumb move, I was pushing the back on. And generally, jewelers have a tool to do that. I've done it on many watches where I kind of put my hand over it and put it against an overlapping surface and gently push down. I shattered the whole crystal in it. So that was disappointing. But anyway, I wanted to tell you that story because it was on my chest. It was on my heart. I wanted to share. But anyway, getting on to, you know, collecting different watches in my collection. I compared Invictas to many different brands. Bulova, Aragon, other Invicta watches. And there are differences between different tier of Invicta watches, of course. Citizens. What else do I got? Casios, Armatrons, Fossil, Diesel, Alexander, Sterling, Aquadive, Visser. I mean, I have so many different watches in my collection. And the amount of quality you get with an Invicta watch is is by far, it's above every other brand out there for price, for value. Now, I'm not saying that, like, if you go spend $10,000 on a Rolex, that there isn't going to be a difference. Obviously, God, I hope so. And I've done videos explaining that those differences are not what people say. It's not going to be night and day where you're like, oh man, you could really tell. It's going to be subtle where you need a macro lens. You need to have the information at hand. You need to know what to look for to tell the difference. Me, I don't really care if I put an Invicta watch under a macro lens and maybe the Rolex has got super smooth indices under a macro lens or a microscope. That's meaningless to me. That means nothing. What I'm concerned with is the look, the design, how I feel when I wear it, the attention it gets. All these things that if you love Invicta, this is why you love Invicta. Because when you wear an Invicta watch, if you're standing in a crowd with a bunch of people wearing different watches, people, for the most part, are going to notice the Invicta watch and be drawn to it. May not be something they want to wear sometimes. Not everybody wears a big watch, but a lot of the ones they make are smaller too. You can get 42 millimeter Venoms. You know what I mean? So there's something for everyone, and the bang for buck quality, it blows everybody away. Now, I'm not saying that, like, you buy an Invicta watch, you're going to compare it to a Seiko, a Citizen, a Bulova, and be like, oh man, big difference. No, what you're going to experience is a watch that costs a third the price that is just as nice. And depending on which one you get, the styling will, again, subjective, but blow it away. So let's talk about the watch today. This one I didn't really think I wanted, and now after seeing it, I have to have it. And this is the highly anticipated Hercules. Now, this watch is a real looker, especially in the silver and gold. This is a perfect name for this watch. Everything about this watch says Hercules. And what's really cool, you have this Roman kind of Julius Caesar theme throughout this watch. Guys, when I first got this, I was amazed because when you look at the measurements online, it says 52 millimeter. And I gotta tell you, let me grab a tape measure right now, because when I compare this to other Invictas that I have, like, Venoms are 52 millimeter, some Aquanomas I think are like around 50 millimeter. This says 52 millimeter, but if you actually measure this, well, I don't know what it is about this. It looks so much bigger than 52 millimeters. Let me just double check because, all right, no. All right, so it's really closer to 55 millimeters. And so this one here, and what I want to do, let me just show you a couple close-ups here. I happen to have another watch it's one of my favorites. Let me just dig into here so I can show you the side-by-side. It was a lot larger. When you start looking at 50, 52, then 58, like your Grand Octanes, and I know you guys, if you're like me, Invicta needs to make some more bigger models. The big watches sell. I mean, I know a lot of people don't want to go over. There's always going to be somebody who likes a big watch, likes a medium-sized watch, but the big watches still sell, and they don't make a lot of different models in that 58 millimeter size. You got the Sea Hunter 3, or you got the Octane. There's a few other ones in there, but those are the biggest, and those are the ones that really get the attention. And I want to show you guys here. Hopefully you can get an idea on this video. I'm going to kind of give you guys a little sneak peek on what else is coming, but I do want to show you. This one here is the beefiest, the biggest watch Invicta makes. Obviously, you guys know the Sea Hunter 3, and this is a 58 millimeter watch at the bezel. They say 52. This is closer to 55, and I don't want you guys to include the crown and function pushers. I'm going to try to line these up best I can, but you can see these watches are pretty similar in size. And when you compare this, the Sea Hunter 3, to say a standard, here's another big watch. Kind of sneak peeking all this shit. The hybrid, the Venom hybrid. Again, I don't know why they call it Venom hybrid. It's really more like a Aquanoma 5 hybrid. But you can see there's a big difference. This is a 52 millimeter watch right here. Let me just double check that. I really need to get a caliper. Yeah, this is a 52 millimeter watch. So when you compare the two, the Sea Hunter is quite a bit larger than this. And when you compare the Sea Hunter to the Hercules, it's larger, but it's not as a noticeable difference. I'm not sure if it's the color combination of this watch giving the illusion, but this is not a 52 millimeter watch. This is closer to 55. I think 54 is what I get with this. I wish I had a caliper, but I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. Let me take a look at it one more time. And that's not even including these actual markers on here, these gold markers. they actually overhang the bezel by another millimeter. So you're really getting a watch that's larger. Yeah, this is definitely a 50, almost, it's like 54.5 millimeters at the bezel, not including crown and function pushers. So this is a big, beefy watch. If we compare it to, I mean, again, this is a big Venom hybrid. You can see it's larger than that watch. I mean, it's, you know, when we start looking at 52 to 55 to 58, they're going to be, you know, it's not like a 50 to 60 difference, but there is a difference in the size of these two watches. And I think maybe it just has to do with the design, the fact that you have gold and that bright polished silver bezel, maybe giving a little more emphasis to the width of the bezel. But I mean, it definitely does not wear, it is not a 52 millimeter watch. And I think that that's kind of a turnoff. You know, when I started looking at it, and I was like, you know, it's cool, it's different, but you know, I want something big. You know, if I'm gonna, I want this thing. It's a Hercules, it's supposed to be above and beyond, and I'm really glad to get it in my hands because now it's something that I know that I do want to add to my collection. If they made this in rose and yellow, I'd be sold on it. I mean, absolutely sold on it. I'd have to have it. But the yellow gold and the silver is a great color combination. I have it in many different watches, and I think right now the price is pretty decent on this. You can get it for $345 from Bulldog. That's shipped. Again, depending on where you live, if you live in a state that charges sales tax, you're going to pay that. Luckily, I think there's only 5 states. But still, $345 for most folks is pretty darn good. Anytime you're getting a reserve level timepiece around the $300 mark, I'd say under $350, you're not getting ripped off. You're getting a fair deal. And these, the price have averaged around the $450, $470 mark. So again, it always comes back to what you think is going to be a fair value, a fair deal. So these yellow tag sales, really, it's kind of desensitizing us because we're thinking, oh, well, that watch is, you know, in the threes. That's not a good deal. But you never know what's going to be part of yellow tag, and you never know which ones are going to have and what kind of deals. Lately, I've been noticing yellow tag is not really offering as many good, interesting, still good deals, don't get me wrong, it's still something for someone, but nothing that's really speaking to me. The last one they had on there that really got me was the one that I picked up. Guys, I'm sorry if you missed out. It was like $130, I think, is what it was, or $100, maybe a little over 100. Sub-Aqua Specialty Gemstone or Crystal Bezel Edition. It's turning automatic, turning one of my favorite watches. I love it. There's a few left in silver, guys. If you see this video, definitely check out my video on this and get it, because it's once it's gone, I don't think you're going to see it again. So let's get back to this bad boy. So you have that nice royal blue face in this watch. Obviously, it's a yellow gold. You do have some different finishes. You have a yellow gold bracelet. This bracelet, I think, is very similar to a Grand Octane. I think they kind of took the Grand Octane style bracelet and just kind of tweaked it a little bit. It is a different bracelet, but it has a similar look. You have that brush finish going down the sides, that bright mirror polishing down the center. You have a couple different links on the end here towards the top of the watch here, the case, that has that decorative kind of chain material, which is very similar to what they have around the bezel. On the sides of the watch, you have what would I believe replicate sort of that in what you would see on like Julius Caesar's crown, if I'm explaining that correctly, and then that beautiful, just awesome looking chain going around the bezel, which if you look at it from the back, it definitely overhangs the case a little bit. So I'm glad that they beefed up the size. I think when they said 52 millimeters, I think they were measuring just the case, not including function pusher, crowns, or protectors. If you were to measure that, it looks pretty close to 52. But of course, that bezel, the fact that it does overhang the case just a little bit, well, I wouldn't even say a little bit. It's actually, I would say you get an extra 4 millimeters on that. So it is a unidirectional rotating bezel. I saw this idiot the other day, and if you guys haven't seen this guy, he did a video about a pro diver, and I didn't want to make this video about this, but do not watch. I think he removed the video. I think the channel's been removed. I'm not sure. One of my buddies, Facebook or YouTube buddies, who's, if you haven't checked out his channel, is really funny. Syndicated Satellite. He does a lot of watch discussions, and he really calls out the trolls out there. Be careful what you watch out there. You're going to have the Invicta haters who really try, like the time teller, that slime bag. What's it got? McManus, Christopher, it's complicated. Theo and Harris, those slime bags who friggin' just want to run down Invicta and run down any watch that they're shills. They're selling watches. Now, you guys know, I mean, I don't sell watches. Every now and then I'll sell one of my personal watches that I don't wear all that much anymore. I work with a lot of different companies. I'm always have open doors with different products and sharing things. I get sponsorships through companies. Sometimes I get paid. Invicta, I don't have any affiliation with Invicta. The only time I get watches is if I have a deal with a seller to send me products to build more brand exposure, share these different cool watches with you guys. And as I always said, I'm part of the affiliate networks. And so when you use my link, depending on where it goes, depending on the product, I do get a small commission, very small commission based on the video. And guys, again, the videos are up to share with you guys these awesome products, the things that I'm into. We all know that YouTube gives YouTube revenue for channels. This is no big secret, and I don't know why, YouTubers try to hide that. There's YouTuber, and guys, nobody's getting rich off this. Well, I shouldn't say that. If you have a channel with 6 million subscribers, that's your primary job. You're doing very well. I hope I can get there. But again, you never know how it's going to pan out. For me, it's been very slow growth, but it's growth nonetheless. And I love doing it. I love sharing the stuff with you guys and getting products and hearing about all the comments. And of course, hey, if you can do what you love and make a little money doing it, then more power to everyone. You guys, people don't get upset when they go buy a car and the salesman gets a commission. People are providing a service and sharing stuff with you guys. For me, it's a little different. For YouTubers, we're basically just sharing, our experiences, our discussion. It's like TV. You pay for TV. And my God, for what cable companies charge, it's ridiculous for what's on. But I've been off the grid for a long time. But you get my point. You get what I'm trying to say. The thing is, I'll never run down a brand. If you want to buy a Rolex or a brand that I don't share with you guys, man, buy what makes you happy. But I will never tell you guys, no, you need to buy the Invicta. What? You're going to buy it? You're going to buy a Rolex? Oh, no, don't buy that. Or something a little more fair comparison, a Fossil or a Diesel watch. No, buy what I'm sharing with you guys. Do I want you to do that because I think that you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck? Absolutely. But these guys will blast Invicta, run them down, and try to make you think that they're garbage watches, and they're not. They're amazing. Nobody out there will give you, putting aside the amazing designs, the amazing look that you're going to get, nobody's going to give you quality for this amount of money. This quality, again, if you compare this watch or any of the other Invictas back there, I'll be honest with you guys, if you compare it to a Diesel, a Fossil, a Citizen, a Bulova, it's either on par or a step above those in quality. You'll feel it. You'll feel it on your wrist. You'll see it. You'll be able to touch it. Don't taste it. But anyway, you get my point. So, these other channels will try to run down brands that they just don't like. And it's just really sad. And they're shills. Most of them have stores that sell watches. I could think of, Christopher doesn't have one, but I can think of like 3 that have stores that refer you, and they're selling the watches. So, of course, they don't want you to buy, a beautiful watch you might be happy with for a couple $100. They want you to think that you need to spend, $5,000 on that Rolex to be happy. And it's just not true. So, let's get back to talking about this bad boy. So, this is powered by a quartz Ronda movement. For those of you who don't like quartz watches, I don't know why you're even watching this video. Quartz watches are great. If I had my choice, I do prefer automatic just because you'll never have to worry about changing the battery. Maintenance, you may have to maintain it. You may have to have it serviced one day. I can tell you my personal experience. I don't have any watches that ever in my life that ever needed maintenance. They work, they tell time, and if they're not, I'm not saying they're not, but if they're not 100% perfectly accurate, doesn't matter. Just like my watch right here, sitting here. I've had it off for a day. The time is wrong. It loses its charge. So you're going to have to keep setting watches. Nice thing about the Ronda movements in most of the Invicta watches, if you don't get an automatic, and this watch is only made, to my knowledge, in a quartz movement right now, the Ronda, if you pull the crown to the number 2 position, and this is a threaded screw-down crown in this particular model, you're going to save 70% of the power of the battery. So you're going to get 5 years plus on this battery, not have to worry about it. So that's a great feature if you have a lot of watches. Don't come at me and tell me that you're going to get dust in the watch and that, oh, you can't do that. It's by the manufacturer. They say you can do that. There are seals in most movements that when you pull it to the number 2 position or pull the crown out, there is still water and dust resistance. It's just not as much as if it were screwed down. Just like you can buy plenty of Invicta watches, plenty of watches out there that don't have screw down crown and function pushers. They still have dust resistance. They still have water resistance. They just don't have the same the water resistance and dust resistance. So keep that in mind. So number 2 position, you got to save battery life, which is great. This one does have screw down crown and function pushers. This is very similar to this crown design that you'll find, I believe, on my Thunderbolt. It's almost exactly the same. Pretty cool crown design. It's kind of like a heavily grooved cone. Pretty cool looking. These are mirror polished. Again, you have the mirror polished chain going around the bezel. This is a true chronograph, which is basically nothing more than a stopwatch. For those of you that don't know, the second hand is supposed to remain stationary when the watch is not timing anything. So that just so you conserve battery. Don't leave the chronograph running. You'll rip through your battery a lot quicker than if you leave that in the stationary position. That's about it. You have a 20-second, a 40-second, and a 60-second or 0-second marker. Let me line that up there so you can get that trifecta going on right there. You can see that beautiful engraving around the sides of the case. And that's really about it. This watch is fantastic. And without further ado, let's go ahead and throw it on the wrist. I went on a little longer than I thought I did there, 20 minutes. But hey, I hope you guys liked the video. So now these are unsized because these are on loan. So I'm going to give you guys the best representation, what it looked like on a guy my size, my height, my weight. I will have to hold it on a little bit because I'm not going to size these watches. They are not mine. They are on loan. I don't want to scratch them or damage them in any way. So again, almost 55 millimeter at the bezel. If you take into consideration the crown and function pushers, you're probably going to get closer to about 57. It's a big, bold watch, and this watch is going to get noticed. I have a 7-inch wrist. I weigh about 180 pounds, and I'm about 5'7.5". So this is what it looks like on a guy my size, my height, and my weight. You can see this is just a big, beautiful, gaudy, bold watch. This one here, I mean, just has God written all over it. I mean, not God, but God. But people are going to say, oh my God, when they see it, trust me. So check this one out, guys. If you haven't added this to your collection, these have been flying off the shelf for a while now. I don't know how long you're going to see them. I know Bulldog has only got a couple left in stock. His price is super competitive. His price right now is lower than Shop HQ. This is not available on Invicta stores. Last time it was, his price was also more competitive. Again, anytime you get an Invicta Reserve of this caliber under $350, you're not getting ripped off. I paid upwards of my most expensive Invicta. Had some diamonds, a diamond bezel bolt. I paid about $5. I did pay too much because it did go on. Well, not really. I shouldn't say I paid too much. Timing's everything, and it did go on yellow tag for a little under $300. But that was about 6 months later, and you know, I got it, I bought it, and sometimes we don't know if things are going to go on special. You don't know. I mean, there's plenty of watches that I have that are Invicta or Aragon watches that, you know, I picked up, you know, for a good value, and now, I mean, they've like quadrupled in price. Some of my Androids and Aragons, some of the Invictas that I have, like, you just can't find anymore, and you just never know. They make so many different watches, and so often, and they're always coming out with just unique new models and different colors that, you know, if you see something, you might be like, oh, I'll wait for a good deal, but sometimes you don't get that good deal. Awesome looking watch. Sometimes you just don't find it. You know, you'll probably never find my my crystal bezel sub aqua specialty for $100. I mean, that was great. Lowest I've seen it now is about $240. That's through Shop HQ. You know, and you can't get the gold. So again, you gotta figure out what's fair, what you feel comfortable with, and go for it. You know, yeah, you may buy something like I did. It may be $500. I love the watch. I mean, I wear it all the time. But, you know, I was like, after it went on special 6 months later, I was like, oh. But should I have waited? I would have missed out on the enjoyment. Maybe it wasn't going to go on there.